Test, 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 test. Seems a... Let's get a little closer. Test, 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 test. That's better. Okay. Hey, Chuck, how are you? I think so. Let me quickly patch you through to the board here, and we'll confirm that, but I think we'll be good to go. Hang on just a second. Okay, still with me?
Yep, with you.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you for your time. Quite a busy stretch here with Iran, so can't think of anyone better to talk about it with. What's that?
I've been out of touch for about the last hour and a half, so if anything's happened recently, I'm not on it.
I don't think so. You saw Trump's tweets on why he pulled back, right?
Yeah, he didn't want to get people killed. He thought the whole thing might be a stupid accident by some idiot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's the latest I've got. So we'll roll here in 3, 2, and 1. My guest at this time is retired U.S. Navy Captain Chuck Nash. He's a frequent military and national security analyst on the Fox News Channel with a particular expertise on Iran. So we want to get his analysis of Iran's multiple provocations in recent weeks and President Trump's decisions to order retaliatory strikes and then cancel them just before weapons were fired. And Captain Nash, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure, Greg.
Well, what is Iran trying to accomplish here by these various provocations? Attacking the tankers, as far as we can tell, shooting down the drone in international airspace, announcing it's brazenly going to blow past the uranium enrichment limits. Why is it doing all this?
Well, I think they're poking the United States in particular and the West in general. They're just poking us in the ribs, trying to elicit a response or a non-response, as some analysts have said, meaning either causing an overreaction or no reaction, which then would, go against President Trump's tough on terror approach. So it appears to me that what the president has done is sent a clear and unambiguous signal to Iran, which is the next time I may not call it off. I may just let it go. So this was a good out-of-the-box get ready for our forces in theater and the national forces that support those theater forces. So we probably turned on a lot of things, checked out communications channels, made sure that we could do what we wanted to do, and then at the last minute stand down. And on a personal note, I was a part of something like that in 1985 after the hijacking of the TWA airplane into Beirut. We were all set to go. I was strapped into my airplane. I was taxiing on the flight deck behind the jet blast effectors. We were ready to launch. We had aircraft in tension on the catapults, ready to fire to go into a target in Lebanon. And they powered everybody back, taxied us back to our spots, chained us down, and called it off. So you don't know what's going on all the time. You can only sit there from the outside and try to guess what's going on. But I think this was putting a gun to their head, cocking the hammer, and then pulling it off and uncocking it and saying, next time, I may pull the trigger.
So do you believe that that was the intent all along? It's obviously hard to know for sure, but or that Trump really was bothered by the fact that there could be human casualties on these strikes, as he mentioned on Twitter on Friday, when there wasn't actually a human casualty with the drone strike?
I think it could be a little bit of both. I think, the president, in weighing a decision like this and the implications of what could follow, I think he takes that job very seriously, and I think he understands the gravity of what he's dealing with. But by the same token, this president is as good of working the media and opinion as anybody who's ever held the office. So I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I trust him. And this time, I think the Ayatollahs got the message as well. Therefore, if anything else happens, then it's all on the Ayatollahs. It is now. But clearly, for the world, he pulled back. We got the message across. Now it's up to them. If they do anything else, Trump is free to reign.
Go back to what you were talking about just a minute ago with your own story back in the 1980s in strikes that were initially ordered in retaliation to the hijacking of TWA 847. What's the impact of a quick change in orders on the crews taking it out? I would imagine there's a bit of an adrenaline rush involved, but at the same time, you're so used to following orders and orders changing that perhaps it's not as big of a reaction as I might expect here.
Yeah, there was a little disappointment when we, got out of the jets and went back down below and went back into the ready rooms, and everybody's thinking, well, what was that all about? Because you have to steel yourself and be ready to go. And when you're going into combat, it's not something. I mean, there's an internal process for each individual of getting ready and thinking about it. And the closer you get now, and when you're already on the flight deck with aircraft in tension, meaning all they have to do is hit the button and those catapults fire. When you're that close and it gets called off, you've gone through some mental steps to get there, and now you have to unwind them. So it didn't hurt morale. It was, okay, well, we're out here on the tip of the spear. There are people in the back that obviously know more than we do, so that's it. If you need us again, call us. We're here.
So given what you said before, do you believe that there won't be any sort of kinetic response to what has already happened, and it's only a warning now to what could happen if the Iranians provocate again?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's going to be anything that could cause loss of life. Now, here's what's really going on inside of Iran. There are demonstrations against the regime weekly. They don't get any press. They've got crushing unemployment. Victor Davis Hanson had an article out a couple days ago where he pointed out that inflation is at a record right there. And before when the JCPOA, the nuclear deal, was signed by the Obama administration, the real to the dollar was 35,000 to the dollar. Today, it's about 150,000 to the dollar, and Iran is experiencing negative economic growth. So the sanctions are working. In fact, they are crushing, which is why the Ayatollahs are trying desperately to change the game up, and they're trying to get the U.S. to react militarily. So to overreact militarily or to back down and look silly. So in any event, that's not going to happen. Trump is going to hold those sanctions in place, if not ratchet them up. And the European allies now have no choice but to back the U.S. play.
Why do they have no choice? They love making money off the Iranians. So how are we boxing them into a corner here?
Because what we will do is we will penalize companies from those nations that are doing business with Iran. And the question's going to be to them, do you want to do business with the United States, or do you want to do business with Iran?
I want to get your insights on another thing you mentioned briefly in passing, and that's that the fact that we initially launched this retaliatory strike meant that the Iranians were flipping a lot of national defense switches on different systems and things. If we did learn anything from the defenses they activated, assuming they did, what do you hope that we learned?
Well, I think we'll learn some order of battle detail, which is maybe they probably have everything encrypted. So it won't be as if we're going to read their communications necessarily, but we will know who is talking to whom and who is responding. And so you can start to map communications channels and figure out what's going on. Conversely, they can learn, they can go to school on us as well. So the question is, if we knew all along, that if the president knew all along that this was going to a brink and then be called off at the last moment. Did we activate real channels or did we activate fake channels? You never know. Strategic and tactical deception are always a huge part of every plan that we put together.
Fascinating. And lastly, Captain Nash, do you think Iran gets the message here, or do you expect them to provoke even more given the economic straits they're in right now?
That is the $50,000 question, Greg. That's it right there. Because they've had clear warning. They know that if they do anything that causes the loss of life, that this president will literally explode on them. And if that happens, they are facing the end of their regime. So they have to weigh in the balance of trying to hold on to their regime against severe public discontent over the economy and the way the country's being governed, and balance that against losing the regime catastrophically from outside pressures. So we'll see. I think they're going to want to hold on to the regime and try to wait out a Trump presidency in hope that somebody else less strident comes in that they can manipulate like they did the Obama administration.
A lot to keep watching, and as always, you've given us a great deal of insight on what's really going on in one of the biggest hotspots in the world right now. Captain Nash, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure as always, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Retired U.S. Navy Captain Chuck Nash. I'm Greg Columbus, reporting for Radio America. You are so good. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Greg. Anytime. And shoot me an email with that, will you? So I can play it?
Yeah, I'll send you the link as soon as it's posted. Thank you, sir.
Okay. See you, Greg.
You bet. Have a good one.